All right, how's everyone doing out there after the break? Great. How's this volume? It's good, huh? All right, well, it's wonderful to be here, and I was fortunate I had an opportunity in preparing my talk to meet a number of your colleagues, to sit down with them and learn a little bit about you, what your challenges are, and what might be important to you. So I want to tell you about my topic today. My topic is about leadership development. And it's about leadership development through volunteerism. How do you leverage the opportunities as a volunteer to build your portfolio of talents, your skills and your competencies, and take your work performance and your career advancement to the next level? So I want to start by giving you a little bit of a backstory about me and what my credentials are in this area. So, in addition to running my company, Unlimited Performance Training, I also am a very, very active volunteer. And the reason I volunteer so much is my personal credo is this: who much is given, much is expected. And I really feel that I have a blessed life. I've had a lot of great mentors in my life that before I even knew what the word meant, they were pulling me up the corporate ladder. And in my first 18 years in business, I had 11 different rotations because of those mentors. Now, I realized with all the opportunities I've had that it was time to give back. And so there were so many opportunities to give back, and some I took strategically, and some I was less strategic. And what I want to talk to you about today is how can you be strategic about your leadership development and your career advancement in the choices you say yes to when it comes to volunteer opportunities. Now, I want to talk today about 4 key concepts. And the first one is illustrated in this box. It's an empty box. And it reminds me of when you get ready to pack up and move, whether you're moving your office or your house. You're inventorying things and you're deciding what to take. You're deciding where you're at. And in this box, I want you to think about where you are today. I want you to think about where you are today in your career. And I want you to now look at yourself as a total portfolio of talents. I want you to ask yourself, what are my best skills, my most competent skills? Not just skills I'm good at, but skills I can teach to others. Those would be my consciously competent skills and my transferable skills. Then I want you to look at all of the knowledge you have in your area of expertise. And I want you to ask yourself, which are the most relevant? Which knowledge areas can I actually coach and mentor other people to have that same level of expertise? And then looking at your leadership behaviors the same way. And then in addition to looking at your leadership behaviors, looking at your total package of experience. And when you put that package together, it's the present package. It's today's package of you. Then I want you to forecast yourself out 2 to 5 years, or whenever it is you want to advance your career and you want to get promoted or evolve to new challenges. And I want you to look at what are the total competencies, the skills, the knowledge, the leadership behaviors and the experiences that you need to really be a strong candidate in that area. So you've got your current package, and you've got your future set of skills in your portfolio that you need to address. And in between here is that gap. The gap analysis, the things that you need to improve, those are the things I want you to think about. What volunteer opportunities could I potentially seize in order to fill those gaps that I need to strategically move my career and leadership development forward? Now, when you do this, you want to be mindful of all of the choices that you have. Give me an idea here today. How many of you are currently sitting on a board as a volunteer? Oh, almost half of you. How many of you are in some functional area as a volunteer that maybe doesn't seem professionally related, but is personally related? It's in the community. All right, excellent. All right, so a community of givers. Now, what I want you to think about is all that's possible. So I'm going to share some stories with you about my opportunities in volunteering and how they've opened up all these opportunities for me to be a mentor for presidents of not-for-profit boards, and the struggles I see them have and the opportunities I see them relish and really leverage. So we're going to talk about that as it may relate to you and what you can do in your leadership advancement. So I want to start by a core competency. You can read this. Isn't this fun? Hello, I'm awesome. How many of you? Hello, I'm awesome. I love this. You know, when you have an environment like this and you're networking, it's sometimes a little bit awkward because not everybody's really comfortable approaching new people. Sometimes it's a lot of fun. But what do you do with this whole networking piece? And how does the networking piece really relate to what we're talking about with regard to developing yourself as a leader through volunteerism? And this is how it relates. You've got to be really effective at meeting new people in order to find out what's possible. And I don't mean just meeting and pressing a bunch of palms and saying hello. I mean strategically networking in a very conscious and deliberate way. So how many of you, when you introduce yourself, say more than just your first and last name? All right? And a lot of you don't. You introduce your name. It's very important to be very purposeful and deliberate when you network. For example, first and last name, department or functional area that you're in is another good thing, so that they have placement of you. Then what you're trying to do is you're trying to find where you have alignment. So what you're doing is you're asking them, as they tell you their first and last name, and I do say first and last because often I'm coaching executives who are only introducing themselves with their first, giving the context of where they belong in the organization or the group, and then looking for alignment and affiliation with people, with projects, with associations. And why that is so important is in this networking opportunity, you want to be really deliberate so that you can align where the opportunities are that you can leverage the relationship on their behalf. Now, the reason I say on their behalf is because often people think networking is about what you want and what you're going to get. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't think about what you need and what you want when you go into large groups of people that have a lot of influence and resources and can help you be effective in your job. But what I am saying is the most effective mindset of really great networkers are people who think more in terms of paying it forward. They think more in terms of what can I give? How can I help this person? That's why it's so important to say your name, the work that you do, the area that you're in, and then try to identify as they share the same with you, where you might have a common relationship, a common affiliation, a common project. And it will be at that touch point that the two of you will be able to connect, and through that, you will be able to diagnose where you might be of value to that person. Now, often people think, well, I can't find really a professional value in that moment. That's okay. How many times are the personal connections something that end up making something wonderful for you professionally? And how many times are the professional connections the things that make a difference for you personally? So we call this, a really deliberate networking model. Now, there's a great opportunity for you when you come into a large group like this, and there are people that you want to get to know better, but you've never formally met them, and they maybe would know your name, but they don't know you, or maybe they wouldn't know your name. But you have a reason you want to meet them. You have a reason you want to connect. And when I see a beautiful book, like I did today on this conference, that has all the bios of speakers, if there's a speaker in there that you want to connect with, there's a skill that we teach that's called being deliberate, Deliberate-Impromptu. So the Deliberate-Impromptu process, I'll first explain. It's deliberate because I know there are certain people I want to meet, but I don't know when I'm going to meet them. That's why it's deliberate. I want to be prepared for what I'm going to say. It's impromptu because I don't know when it's going to happen. So this Deliberate-Impromptu model also really helps people that aren't as good thinking on their feet and like to be more structured and planned in their exchange. And so when you see a group of bios or you understand the meeting list is really thinking through and doing some research, on where you connect, where there's a reference point, and then identifying where you can give value. So that's an important component of volunteering because it's through those networking discussions the opportunities open up. So let's talk further about this. The leaders that have run boards or been on the board of directors that have done incredibly well were great at communicating. They were wonderful at communicating. And they communicated with people verbally and non-verbally by the way they were approachable, the way they were accessible. And oftentimes, people are no longer communicating in current and relevant ways because as we get older and more experienced, there are new generations coming in that have different ways to communicate, and we may not prefer their way of communication, and therefore we do not join their communication model. Let me give you an example. So a few years back, I really believe that to stay current and relevant, you have to keep growing and keeping yourself challenged and educated. And I went back to get my executive MBA. And I was very excited when I saw the profile of all the executives from all the different industries that were going to be in my class. I was looking forward to personal relationships as well as, a broader spectrum of professional relationships. And so with my enthusiasm, I got there early, as I had done the 20 years prior in my career. And I thought, well, I'll have coffee, I'll have breakfast, and I'll get to know my classmates. So that went well for the first couple of weeks. And then I started to get pinged. And I started to get notices to join them and friend them on Facebook. And I was a little confused by this because to me, I really delineated between, LinkedIn for professional connections and Facebook for more social and family connections. But I thought that's fine. I didn't really use Facebook, only for my family and a couple of close friends. So I said yes. Well, then I started getting bombarded with all this communication, all these updates, and all this information. I thought, I've already got too many emails. I already have too many voicemails. I'm not doing this. So I pushed the unfriend button. Now, I didn't think that meant unfriend. I just thought that was just the semantics of it all. Well, lo and behold, a different generation had asked me to be their friend, and when I unfriended them, there was a whole ripple effect. And a month went by, and 2 months went by, and I started to realize when I sat there at the breakfast table, I wasn't on the same page as my peers who were on the average 10 to 12 years younger than me. And I didn't understand why. I certainly was putting forth the effort. Well, there's this whole conversation continuum that was happening without me because where my preference for communication was face-to-face. Theirs was face-to-face and Facebook, and group Facebook, and individual Facebook. And so when I would come in 2-3 months later, the group had evolved in their understanding and learning of each other and their background and what they were doing in their hobbies, and I was left behind. And I share this with you because when you're in a leadership position, it is so important to find out how other people want to communicate so that you can be in that relationship with them on their terms. And that's that selfless piece about the communication. And I find that whether it was in graduate school or whether it's been in volunteering, really understanding somebody else's preference makes a big difference in my effectiveness to really get them what they need, get them what they want to perform, to make a contribution. I want to talk about one of the things that happens when people select their volunteer opportunity. They have these challenges with communication, and there's one example and some ways to fix it. And then they also have these challenges with networking, overstimulation, steering it in, keeping boundaries. But the third thing that often happens is they have trouble with managing their white space. And what I mean by this depiction is white space, that space in which you can regroup, you can pull away, you can step away from the conversations and the stimulation, and you can regroup and be who you are and take all that you've learned, synthesize it, and apply it to your leadership development. Often, what happens for executives is they push back on volunteering opportunities because they think, I can't take anything more. You all have such high levels of responsibility in so many different areas. And to think about volunteering might be overwhelming. But if you are strategic in the way you volunteer, if you align it with your skills and your knowledge gaps and your opportunities for leadership development, to be in a new place with new people who won't be biased by your rank or won't be biased by your seniority, you'll have an opportunity to grow and develop in ways that you'll be able to bring back to the workplace and make a difference in the way you lead, mentor, and coach others. So with that, I encourage you to, next time somebody asks you if you're available, that you say yes. Because I will say in my own life, I have not only had opportunities to meet NBA athletes and meet people that work in the White House and meet my husband and all these things through volunteering. I have gotten so much more than I ever feel like I have given. But so much of that is because my mindset was always to give and see how I can make a contribution. And all of that has come back to me tenfold. And it has helped me define myself more as a leader. It has helped my clients and everybody else who align strategically with their volunteer opportunity and their professional aspirations. Have a great day. Thank you.